Hello. So in this video, I'm going to talk to you about the Suppliant Women, which is originally by Aeschylus, but I'm going to talk to you specifically about the version by David Greig. So Greig's version is actually not, it's an adaptation, but it hews fairly close to the original Aeschylus, but it does a number of really interesting things, particularly in terms of how the play was performed, at least in its initial sort of run at the Lyceum Theatre and under the direction of Ramin Gray. So I'll give you a very basic overview of Aeschylus's The Suppliant Women, because I'm going to make a video about that play later on at some point, eventually. So The Suppliant Women is the story of the group of Danaids, who are 50 sisters who come from Egypt to Argos because their cousins, the sons of Aegyptus, are attempting to force them to get married. So the 50 sons of Aegyptus are trying to force the 50 daughters of Danos to marry them. The daughters don't want to, so they flee to Egypt, where they flee to Greece, where their ancestor Io had come from, in order to seek refuge. There they meet Pelasgos, who's the king of Argos, and they entreat him to protect them from the Egyptians, from the sons of Aegyptus. Pelasgos wants to, but he has to convince the Citizens' Council of Argives to agree to support them, which the council then does. There's a brief scuffle in which the herald of the Egyptians attempts to kidnap the women, and Pelasgos and his guards basically have to fight them off, at which point the Egyptians say, "We'll be back," and Pelasgos says, "Stick it in your eye." So that's essentially what happens in the play. It's the first play of a trilogy, which eventually does end up with the Egyptians coming back, and there's a war, and eventually the Danaids do actually marry the sons of Aegyptus, and then most of them murder their husbands as per their plot, etc., etc. Not really crucial to Greig's version. So one of the things that Greig does that I found really, really important is he gives us a stronger emphasis on democracy than Aeschylus does. Now, The Suppliant Women is one of, I think, Aeschylus's most directly democratic plays. It's actually, historically, the earliest reference that we have in a surviving text to the word, or to a phrase that would become the word democracy. And so we see this throughout Greig's version, because he really emphasizes this. So, for instance, at one point, there's a discussion between the chorus and Pelasgos, and the chorus is entreating the king to protect them, and the king says, "But it's not just my door you knock your fists on. You want to open the gates of a city. A city will share the war and the shame, so there must be a vote by the citizens." And it's clear that the Danaids, who again have been raised in Egypt, which in Aeschylus's sort of presentation of non-Greeks, Egyptians, along with Persians and others, tend to be seen as autocratic. So the chorus says, "You are the city, you are the people. City and people are one in your name. One throne, one vote, one prime obligation. Whatever you do, you must never bring shame." And so they're clearly thinking of this in terms of an autocratic monarchy in which Pelasgos gets to make the final decision. but he keeps telling them that he doesn't. So, for instance, he says, I've no choice, the city must vote. Lest one day the citizens fill my hall, chanting in fury, righteous with anger, letting in migrants, caused Argos to fall. So, again, we've got this centrality of democracy here. And I wanted to point this out in one other place. Yeah, because we actually have a really good description in this play of voting in ancient Athens, which was done through direct democracy. So unlike today in the US or in Greece's UK, in Canada, in wherever it is, so unlike with contemporary representative democracies where you voted for an elected official who then made political decisions for you, in ancient Athens, the council, the ecclesia, did the voting, and it was open to all citizens. Now, of course, citizens at that point were only a certain percentage of free-born men in Athens, probably less than a quarter of the whole city's population, but it nonetheless was direct democracy where citizens voted. So the chorus says, this is after the vote has been taken, Father, Father, tell us what happened. How did the city make its decision? How does it work, this thing called democracy? And then Danos, who's their father, says, the Greeks were unanimous, all in favor. Oh, it made me young to see it. The air fair fizzed with right hands raising, which is a reference to how Greeks voted. Passing the motion, granting asylum, placing you all under their protection, not to be touched or harmed by anyone. And if someone comes to harm you, the men of Argos must protect you. If they don't, then exile, banishment. The whole event astonished me. King Pelasgos spoke with fervor, made them fear the fury of Zeus. If we reject them, this he told them, if we turn back women in danger, we'll pollute and sully our city, and Zeus will punish us hard. But if we take them, Zeus will bless us. Argos will soon fatten and swell. Every word dripped with the art of persuasion. The moment he finished a forest of hands, no need to count, divine law had carried it. The will of the people, hand-stamped by Zeus. So we get here two things that are really important in terms of understanding Greek democracy. One is the description of voting, which was generally done by raising hands or by putting colored pebbles into pots. So that's the other way that Greeks voted. But the other thing that's really important here is the centrality of rhetoric. So rhetoric was one of the things that made Greek democracy run, this ability to persuade other citizens to support your point of view. And we get this actually again, Pelasgos, before he goes out to marshal the people for a vote, or to marshal the citizens for a vote, more correctly, says, don't worry, your father won't be gone very long. I'll go now and gather the people of Argos. I'll teach Danos what to say in his speech. I'll prepare the grounds of the town sympathetic and use my skill to win you the vote. May Zeus now give me his powers of persuasion. I'll go, stay here, pray hard, and wish me luck. So again, we've got that centrality of rhetoric, that idea that you win in democracy by persuading others to your point of view. And that was really, really important in ancient Greece, which is part of the reason that you have the rise of rhetoric alongside democracy, the development of democracy, and also why you get a lot of rhetoric in ancient Greek theater. But the other thing that's really good about Greig and Ramin Gray's version and production of the Suppliant Women is the way that it was performed. So the chorus in ancient Greek tragedy is something that modern directors, modern actors, modern audiences often find difficult. It's not a performance convention that we put into contemporary plays. And so how you deal with it is actually really quite tricky. But what they did for this play is they actually created a chorus of local women. So not people who are not professional actors, but large groups of women drawn from the cities in which the play was produced. And as of the time that this text was published in 2017, the note on the chorus here says that they had performed in Edinburgh, Belfast, Newcastle, Manchester, Dublin, London, and Hong Kong. So that's, I think they typically sought about 50 people for the chorus, which is one of the sizes of chorus in ancient Greece. So somewhere around 350 women from these various cities performed in this play, and they underwent substantial choreography, and they were headed by give me just a second. Gemma May, who was the chorus leader. So they were headed by a chorus leader, and so on and so on. But they actually played a really, really central role in the performances. And you can see this if you look at YouTube for some of the trailers from this version, this production of the Suppliant Women. You can see that they move together. They move as a group, as an almost, in my opinion, democratic bloc. So when we have the chorus in these productions, it is another sort of example of democracy, because we have citizens drawn from the particular cities in which this production is going on, who are taking on the roles of these characters, and not in a sort of political way, but in a sort of civic engagement sense, in a being active and being a member of your community sense. This is very much a democratic gesture.